AV sucks.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, go for it.
Welcome everybody to the live stream. Today we have Benji Kaiser over here, as you can see on this side on the screen. Here, there is Benji. Nice to have him on board. Today we're talking about PCs, laptops. Which one should you get? Benji Kaiser is the best laptop reviewer on the internet. He pops them out like eggs. Like chicken pops out eggs every single morning. Boom, there's one. Almost sometimes two a day. He's crazy.
Yeah,
so if you need a laptop or you want to know which laptop to get for especially creative purposes, go check out Ben's channel. He's amazing. So it's great to have Ben over here, and then we're going to talk about PC building as well. So if you have any other questions, feel free to comment them on the chat. I have the chat over here as well. But if you do want to chat into the topic, feel free to do that.
We're going to start by kind of like just chatting through like some of experiences that we're having with the differences, the pros and cons, and then we'll get to y'all's questions. So I'm going to have Lauri kick it off and talk about just the pros of building your own PC, and then we'll talk through some of the cons and how it relates to laptops. So kick it off, man.
Yeah, so what are the pros of building a PC? Now, I'd like to know from you guys as well, because I know a lot of these guys who are watching are building PCs as well, so let me know what you guys think. But what I think is when building your own PC, I think you can get it much more affordably, and you can configure it specifically what you need. And these are like just some of the things. So if you know what you do in your workflow, for example, your video editing, you're gonna look at technology channel. What's the best bang for buck? Video card, CPU, and then you're gonna see, okay, I'm gonna purchase these parts, but I don't need that much storage. I don't need that much RAM, or something like that. I like this case more. You can configure it all on your own. Whereas I think on a laptop, there is maybe a limited amount of configuration you can do on your laptops. Maybe add a bit of RAM and things, but that's one of the things. Can you add anything?
Yeah, so I'm gonna like throw back at you because we're kind of having a versus here. So the one con to what Lauri's saying is when you buy a PC, when you build a PC, all you have is a box with components in it, right? You have to then buy a screen. And so the benefit of a laptop is you can get a color accurate laptop and good components for about maybe the same price, maybe less, depending on how you configure it. And that laptop can always go with you. Now, the con of that is you can't upgrade as easily. You can't, move up generations as easily. You can't get started on a lower budget and then upgrade. So the big benefit to me of a PC is you can start out with, say, $800 PC roughly, and those are totally doable for even some more moderate 4K video editing, and then upgrade your GPU, your CPU as your budget grows, as you get clients, as you get more projects that yield or require a more powerful PC. But if you're getting started, don't forget that you're going to have to buy. I can't lift my keyboard. You're gonna have to buy a mouse. You're gonna have to buy a keyboard. You're gonna have, there you go. Thank you, Lauri. You're gonna have to buy a screen, so don't forget those surrounding costs. Those are important to consider, because when you buy a laptop, you can get it all in one, which is a big benefit.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. But then at the same time, that kind of can work for your advantage as well, because some of the laptops just come with a very good screen. For example, if you have a MacBook, you can't get a very bad screen. You're paying for that screen that is on there. So there's no option to get a cheaper one. Whereas on a PC, like I'm running a dead cheap monitor right here, and I've been using it for 4 years. And you know what? I started out 4 years. I only recently upgraded to a proper editing screen, but it worked fine, which you can do.
I have a $89 screen and a $400 screen. And so
on my main editing setup, I have like a 600-pound screen, and then like 50 and maybe 20.
And so that's the benefit there, is you can get cheap screens if you want more space for like your workflow. Plus speakers. Great point, Johnny Bravo. Plus speakers, that's another cost, headphones, whatever. So anyway, like, unless your screen has audio, sometimes screens have audio. So you can have like cheap monitors, to be like your workflow, and then your one color grading monitor. That's kind of how I run my setup. So, okay. So, but more pros and cons. Okay. One con of laptops is they're going to run hotter. With the big PC, you can stuff fans into it. It's got a lot more room for your components to breathe. So on my PC, let me see if I can pull up my thermal charts real quick. Lauri, you can kind of keep talking about this while I'm pulling something up here.
Okay.
Heat is another thing.
Heat is definitely another thing, like Ben said, because some of the laptops like the thermal throttle.
Yes.
Like the older MacBooks, we know do that. And then a lot of the other ones as well. As soon as laptops start getting hot, they're going to pull the performance down, which means you're going to lose that. But on a PC, you have much more space. You can cool it out. You can put a better cooler, and then you're not going to lose performance on that. So, for example, if you're a creative person who does like 8 hours a day plus editing or, you know, rendering, graphic
for
design,
my
photo
watchers,
editing.
Here's the thermals I was talking about. Sorry, unfortunately, Lauri, you guys can't see this.
Yeah, if you
continue,
if you
though,
see that, yeah, you can check it out on Ben's channel. But for every day, if you're doing 8 hours a day, like creative things, you want your PC to perform the same in the morning and the same in the evening. It doesn't matter how hot it gets. But on a laptop, sometimes, you know, you're on a sofa, on a nice, cozy sofa, you've got it on your lap, it gets really hot, and then it doesn't work anymore. So
I'll introduce this real quick. Sorry, I know you guys can't see this. Basically, you can see my thermal charts. This is in Celsius, and it goes from lowest to highest. And as you see down here, a PC build, my PC build runs at 48 degrees Celsius. So I can kind of like say the numbers to your audience, Lauri. So my PC build runs at 48 degrees Celsius. So a similar, I have a Ryzen 9 3900X. Okay, let's take the similar Ryzen 9 39 or 4900 HS. Okay, so that's the Ryzen processor inside of an Acer Zephyrus G14. That runs at an average of 87 degrees Celsius. Okay, so almost double the heat. So that just shows kind of the differences of, okay, now parts aren't going to wear out insanely fast. I mean, maybe your parts would wear out 6 months to a year quicker because of the heat. But still, the performance is where we're going to be in trouble. The performance is the issue that we're looking at, because as your laptop heats up, it's going to throttle, as Lauri was saying. But heat's a big, big thing with choosing a PC build versus a laptop.
Yeah, it is absolutely true. Are we going to address the elephant in the room?
Oh, what is the elephant
between PCs and laptops?
I don't know. If I knew the elephant, I might want to address it.
To me, the biggest elephant is one is portable and one is not.
Oh, yeah, completely. And the one thing is, one is portable and it can be a workstation. So like you can plug it into screens, you know, so like it can become a workstation, but it has more flexibility.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, to me, like one of the first questions when people building one or the other, or thinking, should I get a PC or should I get a laptop, is, do you need the portability aspect? Because you're actually paying that in the laptop, you know, compact system as well. You're paying 100%. For that portability. Things cost more to make them smaller. On a PC, if you don't need that portability and you can, you know, rig it up on a desk, you're probably going to get a better, much more powerful system for the same amount of money. So that is probably the first question you should do.
Yeah. Are you on the go? And here's the thing. Okay, here's a thought. Okay, this might be a crazy thought, but here's a thought. You could get, say, something like an Acer Swift 3. Okay, that's okay. Let me back up. Let's say you have $3,000 to spend. That's a lot of money, but let's say you have it. You could get like an Acer Swift 3, aluminum laptop, nice for on the go, 13-inch screen. But you could also complement that with a full build. So you could have your on-the-go laptop, which is great for like writing scripts, doing productivity tasks, and then you could have your PC build for your editing, all of that stuff that you're working on. So, you know, you can get both possibly. That way you don't have to spend a ton of money on one. You could kind of divvy it out to where it would best be used. And that's kind of what I do. I have a PC build, and then I have an Acer Swift 3 that I use on the day-to-day. My PC build was around $1,500 just for the build, not for screens and accessories, and then that Swift 3 is about $650. So I've spent $2,200, about the price of a MacBook Pro, before screens, of course. But then I got a screen for $80. So I've spent $2,300, and I have a PC build that's super fast, and I have a laptop. So don't always think I can only have one. If you have a decent budget, you might be able to spread it out in an intelligent way.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. Like, yeah, because believe it or not, I prefer to write some of the scripts and things on a laptop instead of a PC. I don't know why. There's something about it, just having the whole thing.
Interesting.
Like I have my MacBook, and this is 2019 model, and I only got that one because it was insured on a business insurance, and my son just poured water all over the previous one.
Oh my gosh.
10 years old. And then I literally contacted them, said, my laptop just broke, what can you do? And then they said, oh, this is vintage, so you just go and pick a new one from the shop. And I was like,
no way. What insurance do you have? I need to get that. Dang. We'll talk about that after.
Yeah, we'll talk about that after. But so that is true. Like, anyway, like I like to use the laptop to do my like scripts and writing and things like that, answering comments. Much nicer on a laptop than on PC. Totally. Depends how people like to work.
We got a few questions coming in here, and maybe this will spur some more thoughts. I'll kind of read through mine. One question I have is, and that's really true. William reaffirmed our whole idea of cooling. Cooling is a big issue. If PC builds are going to run cooler, which means they're going to perform at the higher level for a longer period of time without throttling. Why are laptops hard to upgrade? Okay, I think that's a great question. Laptops are hard to upgrade because all the parts are crammed into this little tiny space, and half of them are soldered, however you want to say it, to the motherboard. That means they're like, they're how would you describe soldered for somebody who doesn't know what that means? They're basically like fused. Yeah, they're basically like welded. So it's like electronic welding, basically. Yeah, electronics welding. That's kind
very
of what
fine
solder.
Welding.
Yeah. So a lot of the parts are soldered to the motherboard. And so what that means is you can't upgrade them. You technically can't take them out. So the new MacBook Pros, almost everything is soldered into the motherboard. I think everything is. So like RAM, obviously CPU with their chip, the GPU is integrated, and then storage. Even the storage, I don't think you can upgrade the storage anymore. So when you buy a MacBook Pro M1, that's what you get forever. And so that's kind of the issue. Now, if you buy like an HP Omen, you could switch the RAM, you could switch the storage. You can't switch the GPU or the CPU unless you're like really technically savvy. They're not meant to be like worked on, so to speak.
Yeah.
Where PC builds, I mean, if you have one available, Lauri, you could throw one on your desk and show how literally it's a couple screws and you pull stuff out. It's just so simple. I mean,
upgrading. Like you can have, if you have a motherboard like that, you can throw in a new SSD from your old SSD or add it, no problem. Add some more RAM if you have 3 sticks. You can 100%. Do all that. So easy.
Yeah, easy to an extent. Obviously, if you watch one of our videos, I've done PC build videos. Lauri has done much more. He's way more the expert than I am on PC builds. Though I'm a good intermediate novice. I've only burned up one motherboard.
To be honest, I did one as well recently.
I know. They're so easy to burn up. My screws were set wrong, and so it just started. It literally caught on fire. It was pretty scary, actually.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I didn't know what happened to mine, but that owl build I did on my channel recently.
You burnt that one?
The NZXT motherboard just gave up on me. Like after like a few days, it was just like not doing anything. I did troubleshooting, pulled everything apart, and then nothing.
Tragic.
Then I tested it. Anyway, it was the motherboard, so it went.
Here's the thing,
question.
Here's the thing. If that happens, let's say if that happens, you're out of warranty. Okay, right? Well, how much would it cost to replace that?
Depends on the motherboard. That one was $250.
There you go. That's way cheaper than a whole new laptop, which you would have to do.
Ooh. Yeah.
So there's some thoughts, you know, you can last longer because you can upgrade or swap out or repair parts because you know how you built it. All right, get to the question. Sorry, we're rambling.
There is a Skater Dan over here. Hello, Skater Dan, by the way.
Skater Dan.
He's saying to, this is probably for you, Ben. He's
Okay.
saying, what is the best laptop to edit 8K RAW?
Okay, so there's a few out there. There's like the MSI WK series. I'm sorry if I'm wrong on that. But basically you want to get something that's got like 64 gigs of RAM, the biggest, baddest processor you can find. So like an i9 9980 or the 1080 now. I just don't know a lot of people who like, I mean, the Razer Blade, they make a very, very upgraded version of their Razer Blade. It's a Razer Blade Advanced, not Advanced, Studio, the Razer Blade Studio Edition. You can get like an MSI Creator with an i9 processor. Yeah. Gigabyte has a 10 series with an i9 processor and 64 gigs of RAM and a 2080 or 2070. There's a 2080 Super in one of them. I wouldn't personally.
Is it realistic to actually edit 8K RAW on a laptop?
I don't personally think so, just because it's going to take everything that laptop has to do it.
Yeah. And
so if you're multitasking, like it's not going to be as great of an experience. Can you do it? Sure. Like totally, with like an i9 and a 2070 or a 3070 now. Yeah. It's just going to cost you so much money to do that. Like it's going to be a $3,000 to $4,000 to $5,000 laptop versus like a $2,200 PC build. You know, that's where I start to split hairs, is like $5,000 laptop, $2,500 PC. Like that's the big difference, I think, really, is what boils down to. That's why I'm kind of like pausing on that.
I mean, do you think the new 16-inch MacBook that might come out this year could have an answer for that?
No. Not really. Unless you're in Final Cut.
Next question.
Yeah, unless you're in Final Cut or DaVinci. Like it's not gonna do it. They're not built to do it. I don't even like, yeah. My anxiety comes from me wanting them to be suitable for it, because I know people want to. And I don't feel like we're quite there for you to get the performance you want at the price you want. Unless you're like, I'm a part of like a movie production company and they're going to pay for any laptop I want, you know? Yeah. So sorry, Skater Dan, if that was super disappointing answer. It's just so much money for something that you could get for way less money in a PC build. All right. Sorry, I won't ramble. Continue.
Okay. Okay, that didn't work as well as I thought. Next question over here.
My answer or what you were doing?
No. I was trying to like add like the comments in the middle of the screen while you were talking, but it looked rubbish.
You're so fancy.
There is, I use the specialist. Okay, there is Black Is It 244 says, I used PC Specialist for my PC, since you can pick many different configurations and custom pick some of your parts like CPU, motherboard, case, fans, etc. as I chose NVIDIA Studio. Okay, and then they custom build it. All right. There is Muthu Subramanian says, does Mini ITX build NR 200p case build? Is it portable? Well, in a way, it is. I know there's a lot of...
I used to have a friend who would carry an iMac. Like that was like his laptop. He would like put it in the box and bring it to work. Just side note, it was hilarious.
That's crazy. I know MKBHD brings his iMac to like, shows. So if there's CES or if he goes there, he literally ships his iMac Pro with him. He's got a huge flight case. He talked about it on one of his videos. So there are people like that.
Not me.
Not me. Muthu Subrahim, yeah, absolutely. There are some Mini ITX cases that are absolutely portable.
For sure.
Yeah. Alex Shukru is saying, thoughts on the G14? Got one and I love it. What do you think, Ben?
Oh yeah, the Zephyrus is fantastic. It gets a little hot, like I mentioned earlier, but I mean, for the price, it's insane. It's like $1,500 to $1,600, and it's got a Ryzen 9 with 8 cores and 16 threads, and usually a 2060. It's nuts. I mean, it's a super awesome on-the-go laptop. Yeah, that's one of my favorites, and it's color accurate to, I want to say like 100% sRGB and like 70 some Adobe. So it's great.
Yeah. I just want to say, Casey over here did like a nice comment over here. Said basically he built one of the builds from my videos, and then he says thanks for that. But then he's asking also that is it still fine for 2021 as new gen GPU and CPUs are being released?
Honestly, okay, this is our biggest rant, right, Lauri? Like forget the news. Okay, forget the news for so many different things. Okay, we're not going to get into politics, okay, but just forget the news. Okay, like if your computer's working, don't get the newest stuff. Like, if you're happy, if it's running down the road, just keep using it. I used an old Dell XPS 15 on my channel until I built my first PC. I used that for 3 years on my channel, and it was like, it literally would like, it was like on fire. It was so hot on my desk, and it would like lag so hard. And me and my wife were both running YouTube channels off of one Dell XPS 15 with like a super old 4-core processor. Don't upgrade unless your computer is frustrating you. That's all I got to say. Sorry, rant over.
Oh, sorry. There we go. There is, I mean, I absolutely agree with Ben. Just if you have it, that's the best thing you have. And then 100%. Think about editing next year, right? Don't think about it this year. Just enjoy your stuff.
Yeah.
Sager is saying here, is the 3700X, that is Ryzen 3700X, 8-core processor, last gen, with 3070 enough for video editing? I'll be learning Premiere and After Effects.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you have these parts available, if you do this is amazing. Like the 3070 is better or the similar kind of league as 2080 Ti from last gen, which is like the top of the line thing.
It's the best you can get.
But Sager, just a few like little nuggets over there. If you haven't bought your parts yet, there's like a few things you might want to consider. First of all, that 3070 is $100 or even more expensive than 3060 Ti. And there is less than up to 5 to 6% difference in the video editing performance in that. So if you want to save some, go for 3060 and 3060 Ti, sorry, you're not going to see a difference. Also, if you're doing After Effects is very much a single threaded performance, so likes to use single core. If there's very high single core like benchmarks on the CPU, then the After Effects likes that. 3700X isn't that good on that, so you might want to, if you do After Effects like 50/50 to Premiere Pro, you might want to go for 5600X, which is like 6-core 5000 series processor that has amazing single core performance, and then it might be a better option for you. Just have a think about that.
One thing that we can't forget, and or maybe you don't know, and so we'll kind of help you out here, is just because like you get a Ryzen 9 versus a Ryzen 7 doesn't mean you're going to edit faster. Like that's really core and thread based. Like you're going to get like a 0.1 or 0.2 higher gigahertz frequency going from a 5700 to a 5900, like a Ryzen 7 to a Ryzen 9. So don't always upgrade because you think it's going to be faster. Upgrade because you're more of a multitasking person. So for instance, my screen here, let me show you guys on my screen. So on my screen right now, I have Spotify open. I'm running vMix. I'm live streaming to YouTube. I have like 15 tabs open on Google. And I have Premiere Pro open. Why do I have Premiere Pro open? Well, I forgot to shut it down. So literally my Ryzen 9 3900X is like, here, let me pull up my task manager. It's like la-di-da. I'm just like walking down the road, taking my dog for a walk. Okay, I'm at 29%, 26, 25% CPU usage. That's why I got a Ryzen 9 3900X, because I wanted to do multitasking to the max. So I could open up Photoshop and Affinity and whatever else, and my processor might be at 50%. So that's where it's important to consider a bigger processor, laptop or desktop, is your cores and threads help with multitasking. They don't help in single program performance, to an extent. I mean, a little bit. I can't totally say it doesn't help at all.
Yeah, there are certain programs that utilize that, but most of the like everyday tasks you do, they don't do that.
No,
exactly.
I got a couple questions over here. Somebody asked, what about the HP Omen 2020? I don't know what your use case is, but for most things, that laptop is incredible, especially with NVIDIA's 2060. Whether you're doing 4K video editing, motion design, 3D modeling, it's a beast. Definitely recommend it. It's one of my top picks right now because it's around, for that specific model, I think around $1,500 with the 2060. I'm not positive on the exact price, of course, but I think that's it. The Asus ROG Strix G17 with the Ryzen 5th Gen 3060 CAD, enough for 4K, 100%. That would be a beast laptop. That would be great. What laptop would you suggest for Avid Composer? Will an i7 with 32 gigs of RAM be sufficient? Yes, an i7 H series processor. So an i7 9750H, an i7 10750H, an i7 10875H, all great for Avid Composer. Mobility is overrated. To an extent, I would agree with you, and March. If you're somebody who goes to client meetings, if you're somebody who's on photo shoots, if you're a video editor who's traveling for their work, then I would say mobility is not overrated. But if you're somebody like myself or Lauri, who we're shooting constantly in our studio, or for somebody like a video editor who's shooting around town and then comes home to their studio and edits, then yes, mobility is definitely overrated. But remember, use case, everybody has a different use case and need. And so that's where, that's why we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
So those are all, I think those are all the questions I have so far. Hold on, I got one more and then you can jump in.
Okay.
Planning to get a tough A17. I do After Effects and nuke composing. Is it okay? Yeah, as long as you get the Ryzen 7 version, I mean, you should be totally fine. That's a great laptop. Take it away, Lauri.
There's a question over here. Abu Khalid is saying, what about Mac Mini? Portable 4K screen, is it better than a laptop?
Okay, what are you using it for? That's gotta be the question. That's the biggest thing when you ask these questions. Just for context sake for you guys, it'll help us a lot if you tell us how you're using it. Because if you're writing papers and editing photos in Photos, well, heck, that's the best computer you could ever buy. But if you're trying to do 4K multicam edits, you're going to struggle. So if he tells us, I think that'll help us a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll wait for his updated comment over there. Then there is Brandon over here is saying, is it necessary to calibrate your monitor monthly? He has the BenQ BD 2700.
Ooh, that's a nice monitor.
That is a very nice monitor.
If your clients are very anal, or if you're anal yourself, then yes, it is a good idea to calibrate. I have never calibrated my monitors because I post YouTube videos that are not of a cinematic nature. And I am an essentialist and don't care about color accuracy. Honestly, I don't. I care. Okay, come on. I care a little bit. If my face is purple, I'd be upset.
What would I say? I think I personally haven't calibrated my new one now since it's been a year and I haven't calibrated it. And I don't feel like I need to calibrate it yet because what I'm seeing, it's still pretty color accurate. But I'm guessing if you are that type of person who does, for example, a lot of prints, you are photo editing and then you're doing prints, and it needs to be very, very accurate what you are seeing, and that the was it SMYK? What's it called? The printing.
CMYK. Yeah, I just did a whole video on CMYK versus RGB. It's going to be out next week. So subscribe, or if you're already subscribed, whatever, check it out. But basically, yeah, color accuracy is important. But the issue is RGB versus CMYK, and this is a whole nother rant. Those are different color spaces, so the colors mix differently. So what you see on your screen will never quite match what prints because they're different color mixes. So what you could do if you're doing photos is understand where you're printing, have somebody you print with often, and do 3 different prints at 3 different RGB color spaces and color calibrations, and then see which one is closest to the result you want. And then you'll know in the future, that's where I need to color calibrate my screen to know what the printer is going to produce for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You're basically benchmarking your printer. That'd be my suggestion.
Very good.
Yeah, go.
There's another question for you here, Ben. That Alex, who was asking you about the Zephyrus G14, is saying, what have you found with render times on the G14? They blew me away, but they might be just because I'm coming from an old laptop that I had forever.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, they weren't the highest on my charts. The Strix G17 really blows away a lot of computers because of its 2070 GPU, and I think the Zephyrus is it's a 2060, but yeah, it's excellent. And if it works for you, like we're saying earlier, if you like it, if you're happy with it, keep going. Yeah. All right, I got a quick question here. Somebody says they're confused between the G14/G15 and the HP Omen. Okay, so there's a few different models that you could be talking about. We have the Zephyrus G14 and G15, but then we also have the Strix G15. So if you could clarify between those two, Muskin, Doria, that would be awesome. And then I can give you some good feedback. All right, Legion 5i with RTX 2060 or Dell XPS 15 with GTX 1650 Ti. Legion 5 all the way, because you're going to have, I would get it with the Ryzen 7 and then you're doing Intel. So yeah, the i7 with the RTX 2060 will blow the pants off of the Dell XPS 15 for 4K video editing and animation. The reason being is that Ti it's great that it's a Ti, but it's a 1650, and the 1650 is 4 gigs versus the RTX 2060 with 6 gigs of VRAM. So that's gonna be faster. Zephyrus. Okay. All right. Perfect. Okay. So both of those laptops run pretty loud and pretty warm. The HP Omen has a bigger screen, but then again, if you get the 15, that doesn't matter. I would personally, if I was gonna put my money on it, I would personally lean towards the Zephyrus, because the HP has a bit of a coil whine, and I know people get really mad when their laptops are loud. Now the Zephyrus is going to be kind of loud as well, but it's not going to have that coil whine. That coil whine's a little frustrating. But if you care a lot about the keyboard and trackpad, if you want that to feel really good, the HP Omen is the best trackpad and keyboard I've ever used on a gaming laptop. So hopefully that gives you some options there on how to make your decision. I think I've done a head-to-head review of the Asus Zephyrus G14 versus the HP Omen. So you go to my channel and check it out. That'd be awesome.
There is a question over here. Friend Luke over here saying, what do you think of this combination of hardware together? Ryzen 7 3700X, NVIDIA RTX 3060 Ti, Corsair Vengeance 16 gigabytes, Sabrent 1 terabyte, Gigabyte X 570 Aorus Master, and Corsair Crystal 680X. Luke, or friends, sorry, it's absolutely fantastic. You've got some of the best hardware over there that you can get for. But the only thing is, if you're doing video editing, you might want to cash out a little bit more on the RAM. I'd say go for 32 gigabytes minimum. So later you can double it, or go for 64 gigabytes if you can. I think 16 is a little bit short, especially if you do any 4K editing and any multitasking, you're going to run short on RAM over there.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody's asking Intel versus Ryzen. They basically said Intel 750H versus Ryzen 7. So here's kind of how I go about this debate. If you want single program performance to be like as best as possible. Hey, look at you. Oh man.
I'm doing props. I'm doing props while
I like
talking.
Props. All right. So the Intel is going to be better in single core performance. Okay. So it's going to be a little bit faster in like say Premiere Pro. It's going to be a little faster in like Photoshop. But then the Ryzen is going to be faster in multi-core performance, and it's going to be faster in DaVinci Resolve. Okay. So if you're a big multitasker, go Ryzen. If you want just like really good single core performance in Premiere Pro and Photoshop, go Intel. Would you agree, Lauri?
Yeah,
I totally hacked that?
I think so. No, I think it's true. There is, do you know what? I think Intel could be a dark horse this year because everybody's waiting for the Ryzen processors, and the prices on Ryzen system is really high. Intel's got one thing in the pocket. If they can lower the prices on their CPUs. You might get an absolute killer deal for your money. So look out for Intel stuff. That's the only thing I'd say.
And they're focusing on AI, which means that they're going to be so low-key good that it's going to not really, people aren't really going to be talking about it. So keep an eye on Lauri's channel for benchmark results, on my channel for the new 11th series, because I benchmarked an 11th gen 1165 G7 in, and it was at the top of the single core performance in Geekbench, above Ryzen processors. It was almost up there with the new MacBook Pro M1. Okay, so don't ignore Intel. All these tech people are saying how Intel's so dumb and they're not doing it right because they're not doing more cores and threads. But like we just said, unless you're multitasking, cores and threads are not that important. What's important is the speed of your laptop or desktop computer inside of a program. If you're not running 20 programs at once, then why do you have 12 cores and 24 threads? It's silly. So keep an eye on Intel. I totally agree with that. Let me see if I can pull up that test. Yeah, here it is. It's right here for my audience. Sorry, Lauri, for your audience, but for my audience, you can see here the 1165 G7 is beating out my PC build in single core performance. It's beating out all of these different laptops, which are beast laptops. And this is 11th gen. Okay. So keep in mind, you need to do your due diligence. Don't just look at a number or an i7 or i5. Like, check out some good reviews. Come to my reviews. Hopefully I have the laptops you're looking for and we can help you get the right one. All right. Oops. That's not a happy view. There we go. Okay. Coming back. So yeah, that's kind of my perspective. Let me get back to my questions area.
Do you remember we had a question about the Mac Mini with a portable 4K screen? That person answered, he's doing color grading and editing on 4K. So would that be good? If you're using Final Cut, I think you'll be all right.
Yes, if you're using Final Cut, and if you're not using Final Cut, you're shooting like 1, maybe 2 camera edits with not a ton of motion graphics. Because Lauri has a whole video on his channel about how PC builds are still king, and the new Mac Mini just doesn't quite have the punch to do big, fat projects.
Yeah. You can have a look. If you're not familiar, I did like a whole buttloads of stuff on the Mac Mini, and I later returned it because the hype, what people were saying, yeah, Mac Mini is the best thing ever. And then I just tried to use it for my workflow. And I'm not saying it was very good in a lot of things, but just for my workflow, didn't work quite as well. So if you want to see some of that stuff,
yeah, it's the best thing ever in context. In context, it replaces what existed in its category better than anybody ever has. So if you're in Photoshop, well, the new Mac Mini is 1.5 times better than the previous Mac Mini. That's the best ever, right? So in context, yes, it's amazing. But compare it to something that's built to do another task, then no, it pales in comparison. So yeah.
I've got a few questions here. I'm trying to like keep track now because
all right, I got a question for you. How does the desktop 10900K stack up against the laptop 5800H? Well, we don't know much about the 5800H yet. I haven't been able to test it, so I don't know. Okay. I read that question before I realized what the entire question was.
I've got like something interesting, I think, to add into the system. Go for it. I recently did a 3090 build, a live stream, 3090 build with the 5000 series processor 5800X. And then after the live stream, I started benchmarking and doing stuff. To all the creators, hand on my heart, I'd say, do not go with that 5800X. It's got one major flaw. It is engineered to run extremely hot. Like the idle performance, like just Windows popping up, I'm like in the 70s. I run a Cinebench, I'm sitting at 85 degrees. And that is really, really, really hot. And it's not because of the cooler. I was using one of the best coolers in the world and did some research online. The 5800X desktop processor likes to run really hot. Now, this mentioned the laptop version of this. I don't know if that is any different. Ben's going to probably have one of those laptops coming in there. So if you want to see that benchmark, soon,
hopefully
tune
soon
in for that.
Yeah.
But that's the desktop kind of a version. So if you have, I would say that the Intel 10900K runs actually cooler than the 5800X. Actually, I can say that because I'm running one now and it's cooler than the 5800X. I'm just going to pop into some of the comments over here. Muthu is saying i7 10700K or 3900X. According to user benchmarks, i7 is higher in score, but 3900X has more cores. Now, which cores are you doing? Whatever, depends what you're doing. I think he's saying, I think I build a PC CAD modeling software. Would you suggest me a CPU? So if you're doing CAD and software modeling, have a look at some of the guys who do that type of benchmarks. Now, I don't do a lot of CAD and software rendering benchmarks on my channel, but if that uses multi-core threaded performance, then the 3900X will absolutely wipe the floor with 10700K.
What about 5900X? Do you know if the 5900X has those same heating issues? I got a question over here.
This is only the 5800X. 5600X doesn't have that. 5900X and 5950X, they all run cooler, even though having 12 cores and 16 cores run cooler than the 5800X. It is absolutely terrible. I thought I did something wrong, honestly. I double checked it. I related it
all wrong, Lauri.
After I finished the live stream, I pulled the CPU cooler off, wiped it all clean, cleaned it all up, made sure that the contact is perfect, that I'm getting the cooling. And the liquid inside the cooler stays at 30 degrees while the CPU is 80 degrees. It's
just hot for a desktop, man.
That is very hot.
Do I think the HP Omen chassis design will remain the same this year? Yes, I do. Since they just redesigned it last year, and I think it's a stinking stellar design. Gosh, they did so well on this design. I was so impressed. I think it'll stay the same. GP Troll, Tamil, Foundry, Nuke, Blender, Mocha. Okay, so if you're getting into Blender, wait, which one did you ask? What question was yours? Sorry, I'm just trying to, yeah, you want to get the 2060 for sure. And then a build. Okay, so Blender laptop versus desktop. I mean, it just really, I mean, I don't know like your lifestyle. I think that's probably the biggest struggle with this live stream is like, how do you work? Are you always at home? Then get a PC build. Are you always traveling? Then get a laptop. Are you doing a mix of both? Get a laptop. You know, that's kind of like how we're having to walk through this, because I have, like I said earlier, I have a PC build for my editing and my live streaming, and then I have a very affordable laptop for like writing scripts. And when me and my wife like take road trips, and sometimes I'll work in the car while she's driving, so that way we can like, I can work, we can go somewhere, and then like whatever. So I have a laptop with a long battery life. You know, the Swift 3 has like 11+ hour battery. So that's my workflow. And so it depends on what your lifestyle is like, really.
I'm going to pop into back here. Skater Dandy saying, can the new Apple MacBook Pro M1 chip on Final Cut Pro handle 5.7K drone footage? I'm a travel videographer, filmmaker. What do you think, Ben?
I think in Final Cut, I've seen tests on 4K multicam, and it seems pretty good. 5K, I don't know. Do you really? I feel like do you really want to live in the Apple ecosystem? I think is what I can tell. So that's hard. I think my camera.
That is hard. Dead. I think if you can wait, Skater Dan, I think there's some seriously interesting things with the Apple M1X chip coming up, because they have, you know, if that is 8-core or 12-core, that is going to be absolutely power monster for the new MacBook Pro 16-inch and 14-inch. I think they're confirmed now. They're coming or something like that. So that will be interesting.
For sure.
Okay, I'm just trying to keep up with all the comments that are people.
Sorry, my camera went
dead. People are saying, I'm trying to build my video editing PC, stuck with a graphics card. Can you suggest the best graphics card for books, for Premiere Pro, After Effects, and graphics designing? I've made a full video on that, 2 videos actually. So check that out on my channel. I'm not going to spend any time on the live chat, but there is, for all the budget, best bang for buck and upgrade path, there's a whole video on the channel, so you can check that out. Legends of Games comes in. Hello. What about programmer's laptop, Ben? What would be the best?
So you mean like developer stuff? Honestly, you don't need a ton of power. I mean, it basically just get like a pretty moderate 4K video editing laptop, and that should be fine for programming. Maybe even a little less. Maybe you don't even need that much power. It's just programming is like, it's very intensive because it's doing a lot of computations a lot of times. So a GPU could be helpful for that because you're doing some computation work, but MacBook Pro would be fine. The MacBook Pro M1 would be fine. MSI Prestige, like 15 gigabyte Aero, stuff like that. HP Omen Legion 5, those laptops will be plenty. I've got a few questions over here. Looking for a 4K on the go video editing laptop. Should I wait for 30 series or should I just get an RTX 2070 or 2080 right now? Lauri, you've been more in knowledge with the 30 series since you have already had GPUs, and I have not had any 30 series laptops in. Help us out here.
Sorry, say that again. What was the question?
He wants a 4K video editing laptop. Should he wait for 30 series or should he go with 2070 or 2080? This is laptop.
This is laptop. Now, I know that the graphics card 30 series, even the lowest one, are scoring very close to the top of 20 series. Now, laptop, they're all like, the TDPs are capped down. They're, max Q laptop versions of it because the power consumption needs to be down.
Yep.
If you can wait. If you can't wait, just get whatever is available because work needs to be done and you can't wait to do that, because, that's what I would say. That's what I would say. And there is a Ryzen, Noel is saying Ryzen 7 or Intel 9 for video editing, like Vegas Pro. So basically, I would go with Intel i9. If you're talking about 10900K or 10850K, then these processors are much better than the Ryzen 7's last gen. If you're talking about this gen, that there's only 5800X available, and I wouldn't go with that one because it runs so hot. It's just like weird. Especially in video editing when you do performance, so stay away from that. I'd go Intel on that system actually. Any suggestions how to find a 3060 Ti at retail price? I would say honestly, the weird thing is you just have to keep looking there because I was looking on our shops here in the UK, and we have one shop called Overclockers that sell GPUs. And just a lot of computer parts. And then I went there, and then I'm seeing over 10 RTX 3070s in stock. And I've got a person who's waiting for a build. So we got one from there, and he was like, I just went and bought one. And I said, you are lucky. You don't believe it. He said, yeah, but there's still over 10 in stock. Next day, all gone. Gone, literally gone. The 3090 is the same. I did the build, and the person was like, can we do a 3090 build? I was like, yeah, sure. Look there. There's 3090 in stock. We just went and bought it, and then goes out of stock. Nothing available. Not a single unit in the UK.
Oh, you built that for somebody?
Yeah, that wasn't for me. That was someone saying, oh, can you build a PC? I said, yeah, sure. Because it was 3090. I thought, I want to do it on
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. All right. So I have something, Ryzen 5 5600 with the 1660 Ti with 8 gigs. That would be enough for the Adobe design suite for sure. You could get away with some 4K video editing with that Ryzen 5 5600. But I would upgrade to 16 gigs of RAM if you're going to be doing video editing because it just helps the program run smoother. Got my 3070 for $500 at Best Buy. Just had to keep checking. That's awesome. Dang. $500 for a 3070. Good work. Nice. Okay, so I have a question here. This one would be good for you. Has anyone ever tested a pre-built PC? What are your thoughts on pre-built PCs, Lauri? That's definitely your cup of tea.
I was actually doing some research, literally very, very recently, talking about that because there is very hard to find stock availability to build your own PCs, but pre-built PCs, you can get something very interesting. Now, if you know what you're doing, and if you look out for the right things, because these are bigger companies, they have deals with AMD, NVIDIA, so they have the stock before you get the stock, right? Before I get the stock, they have the stock. So they can build these systems and sell them. And, you know, that's why they have the deals with AMD and NVIDIA and all the parts manufacturers. So if you can find a very good PC, for example, if you're looking for 3080 or 3070 or 3090 graphics card, find a PC that has that type of graphics card in, and then spec down all the rest of the parts that you can, you know, upgrade from the shelf, and then do it that way. That's what I would do, because I was literally going to give people that advice on my channel. That's what I would do. And there is another question here, Ben, for you. It is saying here that he saw a guy on YouTube the other day who used an M.2 adapter to run an eGPU on the G14 and ran a 3090 successfully. What do you think? Would that be a good way to future-proof the G14 in 2-ish years?
I mean, if you have to buy a laptop, yeah, I mean, doing an external GPU is a pretty smart move. Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you're using it for, if you would even need something like that. And the thing is, though, with doing that, the GPU housing is going to cost you probably $300 to $500, right? $200 to $300 maybe. And then the GPU will cost you another $500
almost.
Oh,
depends
dang.
if it's 13. If it's
3090, yeah. So you could basically buy a whole other laptop. You could buy a whole other laptop in a few years. So the thing is, like, you got to think about like context. Like, that guy did that. I mean, I don't think it's that smart. Like, why did you do that? Just buy a better laptop than always trying to hook in all this stuff, or just build a PC, because you can't just. I mean, you're going to carry around your external GPU and bring your laptop and then hook it all in at Starbucks. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, build a PC or buy a laptop. Like, it's always weird that people are like external GPUing things. Like, I think there's definitely a use case, but it just seems odd to me. Like, it just seems more like a kind of like fanboy gear, in my opinion. Unless like you're somebody who's on the go and then you get to your desk and you don't like having a PC build, and you're like, oh, I'm back from my 4K, 6K video editing shoot. I'm going to bring my laptop and now edit with my external GPU. Yeah, then there you go. That's a pretty good use case. But it's just these tactics are expensive. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. So it's like, you could buy, like I said earlier, on-the-go laptop that's super affordable for like all your notes and like your shoot specs, and then have like a really nice PC build back at your office for less than that whole setup, that whole like GPU thing setup. So, your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree. You just literally took all the words from my mouth. I was going to say exactly the same. If you have it like a desk, you just leave it on the desk at home, but then keep the laptop with you. But then when you come home, you've got a better render and things like that. I'm going to keep my live stream going for another 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah. But there is a few questions over here. Raphael is saying, big fan of you both. Thanks, Raphael. By the way, hit that like button on both of our channels if you haven't yet.
Oh, man.
You know, it helps us. Yeah, we haven't ask them to do that. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the content. But
we're just so about them that we didn't think about ourselves, Lauri.
Oh, can you hit that like button again now?
Come on.
Oh, wait a second. No. Yeah, just hit it again. So edits videos on Premiere Pro. He has a 3700X with 3060 Ti. Is there a boost in productivity like timeline if you went with 3900X or 5900X? Will it also improve H.264 render? So Raphael, depends which render you're doing. If you're doing VBR Pass 1, then that is hardware accelerated. Then your GPU will render that. If you're doing VBR Pass 2, that is a software render, and then you have to use your CPU, which means that those two CPUs will do a massive render performance improvement. Now, the 5900X will actually outperform the 3950X. Now, ever since the 5900X, the 3950X processor, 16 core previous gen, is not worth it anymore because that 12 core outperforms that in almost every single way. So if you're deciding to go with that, that is absolutely. If you can afford both of them, the 5900X will give you a massive productivity because the single core performance is like a lot better, like 20% or even more better. Yeah. And then the multi-core performance is even more than 20% better. So you'll see a massive
it's because
improvement.
Some of their new CPUs didn't get the new upgrade of Zen. Only some of them did. Like the higher ones got the new Zen upgrade, if I'm not mistaken, right, Lauri? So if you have 59.
Say that again, sorry.
So not all of the CPU lineups from Ryzen got the upgrade to Zen 3. Only some of them, right?
Yeah. There is only 1, 2, 3, 4 processors of 5000 series.
So that's what Lauri means by you're going to get better core performance and better multi-core performances because they have a new silicon process. Okay, so if you get one of the lower end ones, it has the same silicon process, which means you might as well buy a 3000 series because you didn't get an upgrade. Basically, you just got something with a new sticker on it. So yeah, do your due diligence on that. Maybe we should do a video about that. That's like really condensed sometime.
Yeah,
just like pre-record it and launch it about like the differences between the upgrade paths and stuff. Anyway, yeah. Lauri made a good point. I was just kind of clarifying why.
Mark Rubin is saying, what camera would you suggest for a YouTuber indoor videos, 4K capable and not so expensive? I think the best bang for buck 4K camera for specs you can get is Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. It will cost you less than $1,000 or around $1,000.
Yeah, I want one.
I want the 6K. I want the 4K. I want both of them because
that's a good point.
They've got such good codecs, so your editing will be smooth. Such good bit depth. So 12-bit raw, B-raw shooting internally, it will be amazing. The best camera you can get.
All right, I had somebody ask me what rig I have, so I'm going to try and show you what rig I have. This might fail miserably, okay? So let's try this real quick. So take my camera down. So I have this might suck. I have a Be Quiet, but I can't get around to the other side. So yeah, this did fail miserably. Can you see over there? No, you can't. It's so bad. Okay, so I can tell you, I have a Be Quiet DX500 case. I have a e-gaming motherboard from Asus. I have a Asus Strix e-gaming motherboard. I have a GTX 1660 Ti. It's not crazy powerful. That's okay. I don't need crazy powerful. I have Samsung M.2 drives, and I have a Ryzen 3900X, Ryzen 9 3900X. That's my build. That's what I use on the day. What about you?
Lauri? Me?
Yep.
For my everyday editing, well, actually, at the moment, I've got two. What I'm streaming on is my Owl build, Peter McKinnon Owl build. But then on the everyday, what I'm using personally for editing is 3950X Ryzen. We have on a Corsair Carbide C67R, C678 case. It's a like massive case with RTX 2060 Super. It's still running quite well. It's, getting there a bit. I could do it with a bit of an upgrade, but I'm still going to keep this until like the next generation of things and then upgrade maybe then. Depends.
So one thing, I also have a Be Quiet air cooler. But one thing you have to remember is Lauri edits 4K multicam projects. I only shoot 1080p. I don't shoot 4K. So I only shoot 1080p, and I usually only shoot one, maybe two cameras, but it's rare. And I don't edit most of my stuff. So why I got mine is for recording videos like this and live streaming. I have an editor that does a lot of my editing. I do edit some of my videos, but not all of them. I'll edit like the newer ones that I'm like trying to like try new effects on and stuff. But that's why I only have a 1660 Ti is because I'm not doing huge projects a lot of the time. I test huge projects. So like I have all this 4K footage and raw footage that I'll put into computers and say, hey guys, this is how it works. But like, I'm not like a videographer who goes out and shoots cinematic productions because I don't have time. I'm trying to help you guys know what you want to buy. So I can't go out and have all these cinematic passion projects. So, you know, I won't upgrade for probably until a brand sends me a new GPU to review. Like, honestly, you know, I won't. I don't have any need to. I don't get to keep any of the laptops I review. So unless I go out and buy a laptop or whatever, you know, I just keep using what I have. Everybody's got a budget. I have a family, and that's where I spend my money.
Yeah, that's where all the money goes.
My children eat lots of food.
So do mine. When they're not happy, they just want some more food.
Yeah.
Raphael is saying this could be very helpful for a few other people. One last follow-up on when working on Premiere. Even when with NVIDIA GPU that won't make the actual editing on time, like multiple layer nested sequence faster, that's all CPU. So basically, what he's trying to say is, will the GPU, like NVIDIA GPU, help you with the editing on the timeline, like multiple layers, nested sequence, and things like that? Is that all CPU? It's easier to answer, like, what does the GPU do? NVIDIA GPUs can help you encode H.264 and H.C65 codecs on the timeline. So now on the timeline, if you have one of those, you know, codecs, then the NVIDIA GPU can decode and encode that on the timeline. So if you have doing a multiple like layer playback multicam, then that should go on the GPU. Also, on the GPU happens like color grading effects, like lumetri color, Gaussian blur, what else? Sharpening, maybe some other 3D effects. There's like little icon next to the on Premiere Pro that is accelerated on the GPU. The rest of the things are CPU. Premiere Pro is still very CPU based. So I would always, if you think GPU, CPU, all money on CPU, and then whatever you can afford on GPU, that will be your best bang for the buck.
Yeah. That's why I went Ryzen 3900X and a 1660 Ti. Like, I don't need a powerful GPU with what I do. I needed a good multitasking processor, and I needed a good complement. So like, I'll pull up my task manager again for my side of things, so you can see like how much GPU I'm using. Okay, so here we go. I'll pull it up. So on my side, you can see I'm doing all of this. So I have Premiere Pro open. I'm live streaming to YouTube. I have YouTube open. I have like 10 tabs on Google, Spotify, and I'm using 28 to 40% of my GPU, and it's bouncing back and forth. So and this is the most I'll push my computer, is doing like live streams and rendering and stuff like that. So I'm fine with a 1660 Ti. Like I said, unless a brand sends me one and says, hey, we want you to test this and show your audience and give us your thoughts, I won't upgrade. So
at AG Lee is saying, does 8 gigabytes 2400 megahertz upgrade to 16 gigabytes 32 megahertz make a huge difference in Premiere Pro editing? Currently he's using Verizon 5 3200 and RTX 2060.
What did he ask? Did he ask if an upgrade would help?
So like a RAM, from 8 gigs 2400 megahertz to 16 gigs in Premiere Pro. I think I think you will see quite a bit of boost in there, depending what you're doing.
Yeah, you'll see a boost in like timeline, and in like editing, you won't see a boost in export. I did this test. I exported all of the footage out at different RAM levels, and it was almost exactly the same. But when you're running the program, when you're working in the program, there you'll see a difference. It won't be as laggy. It'll be a little bit smoother, stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go now, so I'm gonna end my live stream over here now.
Yeah.
So
we'll both finish up.
Thank you everybody for watching. Absolutely, let us know in the comment section below if you want to cover any future topics. Yeah, because there's going to be a comment section on the actual video as well when it goes live, because the live chat will go. So leave the comments on there, or some other video comments, drop the note there, what we can cover in the future topics. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and for your kind comments, for your kind chats over there. It's nice to chat to you all and answer questions that probably could help you actually save a lot of time and research and get them answered straight away on live.
And money.
And money, absolutely. Thank you, Ben, for helping my viewers about laptop questions. Ben runs so many laptop reviews through. It's unbelievable. If you have the notifications on Ben's YouTube channel, your phone will go bing, bing, bing at least once a day. So
yeah, and if you're looking for PC builds, guys, from my channels, go on over to Lauri. He's super knowledgeable, as you can tell from this stream, even more so on certain topics than me, as you can tell. And we're trying to do these every other week. So every other Friday, to the best of our abilities, we're trying to get together, answer your questions, and just have a good time together. Thank you guys so much for being on with us today, and we'll see you guys on the next live stream.
Thank you.